Hi there.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Yes, that's good. But
Hey, weiwu.
why? Yeah, I've been waiting. Why I suddenly see everybody? I thought people join one by one. Anyway, so we start 5 minutes late. That's all right. How are you, everybody? If you don't answer, that means good.
Right. Better than good.
Okay. So let's look at the agenda. That's there. Okay. So the first topic is not on the agenda actually, but it's a very quick one. So James Brown and Boone, are you guys there? Hello? Hello, Boone and Brown. Boone is silenced. So if you wanted to speak to me, Boone, just type.
Hi, Will.
Yeah, but Boone doesn't have a microphone under him. Type in the chat room, everybody.
Hi, I do now.
Okay, now good. So the first topic is not on this. That is, previously we have the Ethereum tag that serves multiple Ethereum element in TokenScript that serves multiple purposes. It's either it serves for calling making a transaction. It serves getting an attribute from Ethereum, as well as getting an event from Ethereum, as well as defining a smart contract address. So the reason I use one single element called Ethereum for all these purposes is because I originally intended to be under various different elements under Ethereum namespace. And at that time, we didn't have time to reorganize it into namespace. So given that the March schema hasn't been implemented in April and probably will be in May instead, I wish to change this Ethereum elements into their corresponding elements, which will be the following. If it's an event, it's going to be Ethereum double column event. And if it's a call to a pure or view function, it's going to be Ethereum column call. And if it's going to be other purposes, it's going to be corresponding Ethereum stuff. Yeah, so this is the change I'm going to make. I hope this is okay for you. And because that's actually, originally reason I didn't want to do this in March was I don't want to delay the release, but it's already delayed. So I may as well make this change.
Just a question on one of them. You said Ethereum event, as in if there's an event declared in TokenScript, it can only be defined as coming from Ethereum. Is there ever, is that how I've understood it? And is there a possibility that events can be sourced from somewhere else relevant to TokenScript?
Yeah, so I think the terminology for that is activity. So an activity could be an event, because if we include events outside of Ethereum, it might be a learnability hurdle for the people coming from Ethereum. They say an event, but it's not an Ethereum event. So I use that word activity as the name of the card. And that is, if you have activity card, then it may be corresponding to a Ethereum column event, or it may correspond to, for example, something linked in Magic Link. So Magic Link, for example, can say that this link expires by tomorrow, and that would result in an activity.
Okay. And if there's like an Oracle event from the token issuer, for example, I'm just thinking a use case that might be an event sourced from something else. Then I guess, is that still activity? It might be confusing context, but I can understand, Ethereum.
Activity is once we, so activity doesn't have to be event because activity can be something that didn't happen. For example, your
I wasn't saying activity. I was specifically referring to event. So so if there's an event source from Ethereum, that makes sense because you've got Ethereum scoping or events scoped within Ethereum. And will a token, it's just entertaining that thought as a token issuer ever needing to create an event to say, event cancelled or, event. That the thing that's happening has been cancelled. The thing you had a ticket for is cancelled. So that is like a notification or an activity, but it's,
so
I'm not sure if
let's not dive into the conversation of how to design activity. This point is about change the existing thing that's already there, like Ethereum, function is already there. I just want
I guess
to
I'm
name
thinking.
them.
Yeah. Sorry. And then the last thing I'll say on this, that like attributes can be sourced from a smart contract or from elsewhere. Is that correct? Or am I misunderstanding?
The attribute can come from various token attributes can come from a attestation, for example. If you get a FIFA ticket and you never use it in a smart contract, then it's an attestation in your wallet, you get attributes.
And so my question is that for events? Like, is there such a thing as an event from outside of Ethereum that is conceptually the same thing?
If I address this one, we will not talk about event today because that's not the
no worries.
agenda and
Okay.
other things. Okay. So
because I just thought it was it'll lock it in, but that's okay. No worries.
Last question. That is, if you have a ticket arriving in your wallet and that's being saved in your wallet, that's the event too, that you receive a ticket. Yeah, that is, sorry, that's an activity too. That's not an event, Ethereum event.
Okay, well, I guess we'll take it down in the notes. Thanks.
Yeah. So this is to get Jay Boone and James Brown to agree that we are going to rename Ethereum into corresponding elements by Ethereum column something. And that's okay. This is rename. This is not about how to use the event. That's two TokenScript.
Yes, wait, I understand. Have you written this down anywhere? Can we just have a look, see how it would look?
I can share the code.
Okay.
Let's not dwindle on this issue too long, okay? Because we have many issues. So look at the code. If you don't agree with me, I just leave a mark that says this is unsolved. So we can enter the next one. Let me
okay.
How do the how to share the Zoom group chat. There are Zoom has 4 windows. That's not smart. Anyway. Okay, so if you look at this one, for example, previously it's called Ethereum function, now it's called Ethereum call with the function.
Oh, I see. Okay, right.
Yeah, and previously it's Previously, let's say this. Previously it's called just I think it's either Ethereum or event. Now it's called Ethereum.
Okay, can I just? I don't want to get bogged down with this, but is that an underscore there, or is that just like an error?
It's an error because I have.
Okay, because you haven't updated the syntax.
Yeah.
Why have you got a space there and not a dash like you have in the rest of the syntax?
Because it's namespace. So the idea is every blockchain is able to add their own stuff into TokenScript. So
no. It just seems a bit inconsistent with the look above. You have attribute hyphen type.
Yeah.
Why not event hyphen module?
Oh, that's different though. If I write it this way, it will make more sense to you. Sorry. Something wrong with my keyboard. Now it makes sense to you, right?
I think James is saying why use underscore.
That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the where it says event space filter. It looks very, very strange to have a that just looks wrong.
It was like this before. Remember, you have an event. You have 3 things. One is which module it refers to.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. It's all right. Don't worry. I
thought you meant this.
No. I've got it now. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw the same thing as you, James. I know what you're saying.
I was having a I was just having a brain.
I saw the same. I only realized also
brain malfunction. Yeah, sorry. I've got it now. Sorry. Don't worry.
All right. So this point is passed, right?
Yes,
I make the changes and I will list the changes in the request so that Andrew and iOS can follow up with the changes. In fact, if this gets further delayed, I actually wish to put ASN.1 module into data as well, because it was a makeshift thing in the beginning, and later we want to define data objects with unified scheme. But that's not a separate discussion. Okay. So now let's go to the next one. That is, James Saki previously mentioned that currently contract address, if it is a attribute type of a token, it cannot be used as a reference to a contract. Does it make sense? Does what I say make sense? If it doesn't, I will make an example. Actually, there is an example already.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you said. Do you want to just say it again?
Okay, so have a look at this one. damn it, how do I put a message to Zoom?
We will go to the top of the screen where you will get the screen viewing options. So go to the toolbox there, and in that, if you
found it. Yeah. Okay, can you see that message? Okay, actually, I share my entire screen so that you can see the what I'm looking at. So this is it. So let's say this attribute landing pool address is returned by a view function call. And yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, this is so. This is now the attribute source is the function. It's smart contract. So smart contract returns what smart contract to call in the event in the transaction. Can you see this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, because you can't. It's to do with the language parsing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my thinking here is, shall we trust this usage or shall we whitelist them instead? So shall we allow this to be used as is, or do we whitelist a list of contracts in the TokenScript header, so that if the return value is not within the range of addresses, it's not considered trusted? Because this look dangerous, but I don't know how to word it. Yeah, I don't know if I should be overprotective.
Is it a finite list of addresses?
Pardon? Yeah, finite.
Is it a finite list?
Yeah. So what I'm proposing is either we implement this post, the syntax introduced in this post. This is by Sangali, or that we create a contract definition, which is called landing pool addresses, inside of which there are 10,000 addresses, which has all the possible landing pool addresses. And then if the contract, if the attribute type refers to one of the addresses in it, that's valid. If it's not there, then TokenScript is dealing with unknown contract. The danger is mostly sending a transaction to a smart contract that may not have a trust relationship with TokenScript.
Yeah, but then you're kind of aren't you breaking the whole deterministic model?
Yeah, but if this guy has a dynamic model, that is, he creates a landing pool address once a month, then he will have to update TokenScript once in a month.
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's the problem. And if he forgets, then it won't work.
Perhaps one thing also to note is that usually for it to be able to take your funds for so any essential transaction like deposit, which moves money, requires that you have had approved the function that it's taking from. So if someone put a fake address in and it was doing something that involved a coin being transferred, it would fail unless they had already pre-authorized it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but on the other hand, someone can create a contract.
Yeah, but the thing is, we can't. I think it's very dangerous restricting things because, like you said before, you're creating a sharper, steeper learning curve if you do that, because it won't function how the person is expecting it to. Yeah, if someone's testing it, when it doesn't function how they're expecting, then the chances are they'll give up.
Yeah.
So I'd be cautious about doing what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, let me just make sure that I understand this correctly. We're using a contract address that's being generated from, if you scroll up a bit, it's being generated from, this attribute here, landing pool address, which is a function, which is the return of this get landing pool function. Yeah, that seems reasonable. And like James said, there's it has its own safeguards on.
Just for reference, this is a real life example. The Aave DeFi contract uses this method. It has to get the lending pool address dynamically.
The funny thing is, if it does so, why does it not route the transaction dynamically as well? Why don't it provide a unified front? Sorry,
that would be better.
Front is party propaganda. Sorry, not this. But you know what I mean, like a proxy interface.
that seems like a better approach. But maybe I don't know. Maybe that's it, version 2.
That they just don't like encapsulation or taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, that.
So with this change, can I say that we are expanding the namespace for the Ethereum function called contract attribute to also look for attributes?
Yes,
That
that's another. That was the other. That was the other thing that I was thinking as well. We're going to have to. There's going to have to be a little bit of infrastructure change to accommodate this.
So if somebody wants to create a fake TokenScript in order for you to send a transaction to CryptoKitty and move all the monies away from CryptoKitty, all he has to do is first write a new smart contract and then use that smart contract to entrust TokenScript. Now, how does the user trust that smart contract and TokenScript? We simply suppose that this is a benign smart contract called coin toss, okay? Benign, this is really benign. This user there's no risk that the user will take if he installed TokenScript and start to play with the contract, okay? And then it will return address, which is CryptoKitty. And then it will construct a transaction to move users CryptoKitty away. Because
just
now TokenScript,
Quick question. So although that's possible currently, as in directly with using Web3 to construct a transaction, the ideal is that that's not possible and only things go through TokenScript.
The current Web3 way does not have trust boundary.
Yes,
so
exactly.
the idea is the user trust this token, doesn't mean the user trusted the next token.
Yeah. So our goal, although currently with TokenScript, inside Alpha Wallet, it's possible that some code inside TokenScript calls Web3 directly. The intention is to remove that. Is that correct?
In the long term, yes. Yeah. In the long term,
okay, gotcha.
You can only do transactions or calls
yep.
within the
through
boundary.
yeah. I was just confirming.
That's runtime security, which we didn't implement. It's in part of design thinking. Now back to this one. The tech model is to create a benign token called coin tossing. Create TokenScript for that. Allow the users to toss coin. And in fact, that smart contract returns the address of another contract, which is CryptoKitty, and take users' money away, kitties away.
Then can we say if it's whichever contract it's calling, we'll try and establish what that contract is? No, actually that's too restricting. Because
that's actually what I suggested, which is to define every contract and multitudes of address in the header, so that we can check the contract relationship. So what we could do here is we accept this behavior, but in a really rudimentary way, and in the way I really hate. That is, we display a message saying that your TokenScript is entrusting an unknown contract. Do you want to go on? Nobody will understand what it means, but it will.
And also, they'll probably just click, go away.
Yeah. So, Sangali, do you think this lending pool addresses are finite?
I can't say for sure, but possibly the model was that you'd be able to change it if something went wrong, maybe.
In that case, you should be able. In that case, it sounds like they have a smart contract way to address what TokenScript could have addressed by itself. In that way, we can simply require them to write a new TokenScript every time and declare this contract so that we can check the trust relationship.
So if they're going to be calling their own contract to get their lending pool address, you can assume that they've done that right? Because if they did it wrong, then that would mean that they.
There's no problem trusting. There's no problem trusting. What is this token? Tell me.
This one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Okay, lending pool. Let's call it lending pool. Okay.
Wait, the one you just highlighted, or the one lending pool?
Which token? What is the name of the token that this piece of TokenScript is taken from?
The name of the token that
the AAVE finance thing, interest-bearing credit or whatever. What is it, James?
So the outermost one. The outermost, I think.
Yeah, the origin.
One or the
I
other
think he's talking about the origin token for this contract.
Yeah.
It's the AAVE interest-bearing bond.
Okay, interest-bearing bond. Okay, I just need a name. Okay, Sangali, there's no problem trusting that an interest-bearing bond is always returning the correct lending pool address. That's not the concern. The concern is another TokenScript, another contract called coin tossing twice the fun, which is a new game and a new token, actually returns address of this one and takes the user's money from the lending pool.
Sorry, you mean another TokenScript which inherits this TokenScript uses?
No, the other TokenScript has nothing to do with this token by the look of it. It's called coin tossing.
Is it like a sort of this is like an Ethereum version of phishing kind of thing?
Yeah. So you trusted the coin tossing thing because you trusted that the biggest risk you can ever commit to the coin tossing thing is to lose the coin you just tossed. And in fact, when you toss a coin, it costs lending pool contract and leaves a lending pool address and takes all your money.
I don't understand.
To rephrase the exploit, so if Aave contract calls to the Aave contract trusted, and if you call lending pool address and get another address, if you pass that trust on to the returned address, and then I can call that address freely, if that's the proposition, then a possible exploit is another contract, call it game token, can say, hey, game token, get me my player token. And with that address, it can call things freely on it. Now, if it chooses to return the address of the Aave token, that game token can now call the Aave token freely when it shouldn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that's the case.
Can you actually do that though?
What?
Sorry, Sangali, did that make sense?
No, sorry, I don't understand.
Okay.
Can you, if you're calling a contract from another contract, does it take? I thought it took the most immediate contract as the address rather than the calling one. I'm not sure how it works. How does it work?
In this example, it's calling scroll to the top. It's calling the one retrieved from the attribute, which we already talked about. So.
No, I think what they're talking about is there's an attack where you can call this lending pool from a completely different contract, but in that case, the approve wouldn't work because that completely different contract isn't approved to use the tokens.
Well,
so surely it wouldn't work.
It doesn't need to be
right.
attacking this one. Once you allow this syntax, it can be attacking anyone.
No, but I mean, no, because okay. In this specific example, James S said that you need to approve the lending pool to use your token. So if you've got the coin tossing one, they can try to access the lending pool, but they won't be able to because they're not approved.
Once you allow this syntax, it will be used against anything. So let's assume there's a WETH, okay? WETH which has a transfer from. That's very simple. You transfer it to someone. And then the coin tossing one simply says that it returns a contract address, which is not even written by him, which is the wrapped ether master contract address. And then it helps you to construct the transaction to transfer all your wrapped ether away. There's no approve involved in this.
But then that's a transfer function.
Yes. Of course, you can guard it if you have the wrapped ether TokenScript, but you cannot rely on that.
Oh my God. Sorry. So Ethereum function equals transfer, contract equals get my with address.
The contract equals get my WETH address, and this TokenScript is written for a binary token called coin tossing, but it returns in the coin tossing contract attribute. It actually returns the address of WETH master contract. And then in the coin tossing transaction portion, it actually calls the WETH contracts transfer, and by default transfer to the attacker.
Couldn't you do that already by just putting a contract at the top and naming it something else, but it's actually with, and then putting it there?
Currently, our policy is that if you send a transaction to a smart contract, that smart contract has to express trust. Of course, that policy is also unimplemented, but it was designed there for a long time, and it was just, yeah.
I can't remember, we had some other issue with that, but I can't remember what it was anymore. But anyway,
yeah, it's a separate, yeah.
So the idea is, if you send TokenScript protects you, so that if you send a contract, a smart transaction to a contract, you know what you are doing. That line is no longer true.
Interestingly, with that design, it means that token scripts will be quite limited in that they can't use other tokens, whereas I think tokens at the smart contract level are trying to cascade more anyway, but that's a broader point. Again, I can leave that for an overview.
If they had chosen to use proxy contract style or proof style, then it's relatively simple, because WETH contract has not approved coin tossing contract to take users' money away. Even if the coin tossing contract is able to help construct the transaction to move the user's wrapped ether, the contract in turn calls wrapped ether, it will not work. So there's a layer of protection there. But if you remove that design paradigm and you simply return the contract address, then you have a blind trust issue. That is, whatever this contract returns me, I'm going to trust that.
I think we can agree this is less secure if we don't whitelist. But yeah. So what's our philosophy? Do we go with the less secure but easier to learn version, and then we tighten it if we have to? Or do we go the other way? We make it secure first. If it's hard to use, then we change it.
Well, so it's really the question of how long does it take for a adversary, attacker, to learn to spoof us. And if everybody in this meeting rooms are loyal, then this will happen in a few months. If one of you wants to do this and take users' money away, then it's tomorrow.
Then if you word it that way, should we just use adopt a more secure version of this and then loosen it if we have to?
That would be the thing I'm more inclined to do. It's a learnability hurdle because it creates one more reason to fail. So what it works is that you declare all the contracts you are going to send transactions to in the TokenScript. That is called whitelisting, and then you can still have the structure that returns the contract address. However, if the contract address doesn't fall into one of the predefined relationships, then it doesn't work.
There's a sort of a middle ground. We can do this, and then, but if we detect that this has happened, we just remember at the top of the screen, we show whether the TokenScript file is signed, whether it's verified.
Mm-hmm.
We can show something different if it's not whitelisted and still let it work. Then it'll be easy to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, given the risk is that this kind of exploits can simply take all the users' money away. If like a WETH, there's no the justification for giving user a different message and then hope users to react differently is weak.
Okay, if that's the thought process, then we should just go for the more secure version.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to push for the more secure version.
How about this? Can we do it so that if it's on it behaves differently if it's on a test net, if it's on a main net, or possibly you have a debug version. Can we somehow
that might be
build
more
that in?
confusing.
Yeah, it might be.
If
That's
you're
what I'm
testing on
worried about.
Ropsten for like
Yeah.
release and then it behaves differently, yeah.
Yeah, true. But I think if there could be some kind of directive, like like in an
volatile
Android
or something.
manifest. Maybe not. No, not volatile. Like just like in a manifest, you might declare that it's a debug environment. But
although remember, the user knows that they're on Ropsten.
yeah, the user does. But like James said, if some developers worked on it and they deploy it, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work on the mainnet because they weren't aware of some difference.
So I mean, the behavior is the same.
Yeah.
But we still have the Ropsten tag in our wallet, so they know that they're on Ropsten. So the behavior will be the same, equally restrictive, but you know that it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you're on.
I mean the restrictive behavior. If there was a flag, like a debug flag or something in the script, I don't know though.
Maybe Sangali and me can work out how landing pool address works, whether or not it's work like a load distributor, or whether or not it works like a protection mechanism so that the new contract can replace the old one. If it's an pool, if it's like load balancing, this is pool of addresses, then we're stuck here. We have to use the whitelisting. If this is simply a way to inform the user of the change of the contract, then we simply can evaluate that if this address return value, this value, this contract view function call return value is not equal to the contract that is being defined for transaction, then we simply bail out, saying that this token script must be outdated.
And yeah, I'm just thinking of the composability of these DeFi contracts. I guess it kind of does depend on them cascading and stacking. And I guess that's sort of TokenScript's intentions too towards interoperability, is that things, for us, what we want is TokenScript talking, and that's great if we lock a TokenScript to a contract and then we be interoperable after that. Whereas currently tokens are being built to be interoperable at the smart contract level already. And we are, I guess, trying to say, hey, don't trust each other down there, trust each other up here. It's an interesting design choice.
There's no boundary protection. Basically, if you look at the attack surface, there are so many attacks as possible that if your contract involves other contracts, but the user simply trusts the original contract and doesn't have to, nobody audit all the chain of trust. It's the same situation where DVP security was not being talked about because people simply passed balls to each other without knowing if the other person is a bad person. So the point of DVP's security is to create transactions so that it cannot go out of the boundary of where it was supposed to be used. But that is in the transaction payload, not in the address. This is the same problem, but manifested as the address problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to simplify the assumption, like to state the assumption, I know it's repeating what we said before, that a token script will only be allowed to execute transactions on the contract or contracts that it
has a trust
defines, has a trust relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps it's worth looking at more examples as well. I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but just to make sure if there are many popular use cases that this works, or if we accept that those use cases are not what TokenScript is designed for. Just to have that data with us would be helpful.
Yeah, we can also have insecure mode where the thing being run is simply the traditional design, and we provide some guidelines on how to design things. But
yes, I like that one.
Or unsafe or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But that
and in the wallet, we specify when they're using it. There's like a red bar or something that says, this script is running in development mode, just as a cue for the developer.
Okay, so currently the way we treat it is for such kind of token script, we make it work, but it is always displayed as a developer's mode and wants user not to use it.
Yes, so they can get it working in
and
the
then we
non.
can produce the proper design
Yes.
as we go on the line of DVP security.
Yes, yes. So that, at least then you've reduced the learning curve slope.
As we know, DVP security involves a attestation that is scoped, and that scope is a contract address. We will continue that one, and then we will probably solve it there. But here we simply allow this to happen and always display it as a developer contract. Yeah, it is untrusted. Yeah. Okay, does it work?
Yes, I like that.
Yeah. So the next one is a trivial one. That is, we don't have a data type, data syntax for Ethereum address. Sometimes we need to compare if the address is the same, ignoring the case. So what I could do is to define the OID notion of a new syntax to be used for addresses. This is like we have syntax for strings, syntax for generalized time. We can add another syntax for Ethereum address so that case insensitive comparison can be done. I think this is also a pretty trivial topic. Is it all right for everybody? Yeah. Multiple Ethereum. That's all right, I guess. Then there's operational attributes. So operational attributes is the concept in directory service. So directory service server is where you have data objects and you have put them into a server so that they can be inquired. And the operational attributes about this data object's operation. For example, when is this object created? When is the time it is last accessed? And who is the creator of this object? So this is very similar to a element in the events. That is, if you have an event, then you will have all the event elements. On top of that, you have a hidden element called block ID, which is the ID, the time ID of the block ID of the event. And if there's a way to get time, you can also get event time. These are simply always supplied together with the event without having to define them. And it's used for a few occasions that James Sangali pointed out, right? That also means that we will probably have a reserved keywords. So we have to think smartly, otherwise someone can create an event with an attribute called block ID. And that can conflict with operational attribute. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it'd be nice to get those kind of details into the TokenScript. Definitely.
I'll propose a draft then. We don't have enough time to discuss what operational attributes and how to name them in this meeting. Yeah, but I will propose something like this. And Boon, are you okay with that too?
Yes.
Okay. Then the last one is James Brown's two-pass method, which James, did you copy it to the?
I am halfway through that one, but I've
okay.
Yeah,
in that case,
got other jobs.
show everybody the GitHub.
But it's in the it's written up in the issue.
Oh, no, damn it. Okay, so where is it?
It's in iOS.
iOS.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, James Brown, are you going to introduce this? We still have about 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like introducing logic into logic-enabled attributes. So one of the things that James came across when he was writing the ENS contract is this email record function. So basically, so if you just have a look at where the cursor is, you can see that there's a function. Actually, we can't see it because it's off the end of the page. Yeah, okay, so you got this function text, which is basically a function on the public resolver contract. And that contract takes two parameters, as you can see below. You can see it takes the string email, which is a static param, and a reference to another attribute, which is node. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can see that the node attribute is sourced from within the script itself. And the reason for that is because if you look at the JavaScript, you can see that it's a result of a calculation. So it's the ENS name, which is itself is an attribute, plus this props base node, which is just a static JavaScript variable. So what he does is he joins those and then takes the name hash of that, which becomes the attribute node, which is then read in the attribute above. So here's the catch. You have to have that the result of that first function call at the top in the view itself. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg. You have to perform calculations on another attribute before you can put it into the input of a third attribute. So to get this, the way that we did it was we need a two-pass method. So in the first pass, what we're doing is putting all the static attributes in that we can get, building the view so that the JavaScript is all is executed and everything's built up. So on the first pass, we resolve the node variable, and we've got that, which is like basically a 32-byte hash result. Now that we've got that node variable, we can then build the attributes a second time. And if you scroll up a bit, scroll up, keep going. Yeah, okay. So now we've actually got node, and we can inject it into that attribute and run this function here. And then we rebuild the view a second time, but this time email record can be resolved. So then we can display that in the script. Does that make sense? And the really cool thing is if you cache the results of the transactions, it doesn't actually take any longer for the view to resolve than it would have done, other than a few milliseconds for it to render the first time. That's the only extra time it takes.
Okay, can I speak on this?
Yeah,
so
sure.
You finish. Okay, so my recommendation is can we do this in a similar fashion as how React JS propagates value changes? So let's say you are buying ICO offer, and you are filling the form, and in the middle of which the ICO quota is filled up. You cannot buy the ICO anymore. Therefore, if it doesn't make sense if you continue. This blockchain event can be propagated into the user interface through the way React.js is designed to. That's right. That's all right, right? This is before we introduce this new technology. So when the action is generated with React.js, it's possible to update the attribute values being used in this one, right?
Okay, I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that this can be done simply as taking the user's input as one of the source attributes, which other attributes might need to be updated. The reason I mentioned this is because it may not be two paths, it might be multiple paths. The guy who designed the action might want to update the attributes more than one time.
Yes, I understand that. So basically, you can just keep going until you've resolved all of the inputs.
Yeah, and if the user changes his input, Then as user change it, we start another round of
Oh,
propagate.
okay. That's something else. That's so what you're talking about now is the view's been built for the first time, and then the user is updating the view and need to recalculate. Okay, that's a different issue.
This is because your user might want to do 2 times, not only 1 time.
Yes, I understood. Yeah.
So that's like developing React for TokenScript?
Like a React API for TokenScript, which we kind of already have, right? Don, you have this update thing.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the attributes. Can I go through this with James now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a bit confused. Okay, so I'm looking at the top.
Yes.
So you have an attribute called email record, and you
Yes.
have an attribute called node. You have another one called ENS name, but let's just ignore that because
yes, ENS name we can assume has already been resolved.
Yes. Okay. So I'm looking at the JavaScript fragment.
Yes.
Which basically generates the hash from the full name, generates the hash from the ENS name, and sets it as the user input for the node attribute.
Yes.
Good so far? Okay,
Yes.
so just before that, you're saying that we have to render the view first. Yes. Correct? Yes.
Yes.
And after we render the view, the user enters the.
No. So you render the view for the only reason you're rendering the view is because you want to execute the JavaScript. Like the first view render in this case, you're just basically using that web view as a JavaScript virtual machine kind of thing.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, you're only interested in the result of that calculation.
How do you do the submit?
Sorry, what submit?
I might be forgetting something. When the user, you're saying that you're using the view as the JavaScript engine. So it sets the user input into the node value.
Yes.
How does that get updated to the TokenScript client?
So look, so can you scroll down right to the bottom of the issue? I've put everything together. So you can see the full JavaScript that's of interest to us, right? Okay, yeah, this bit here. So you can see when the token gets built, you can see what's happening straight away, can't you? Like you can see that node, the node element gets populated with the name hash. Yeah?
Yes. So yes, after that, how does the TokenScript engine know?
Okay, so right. Okay, so when you first you kind of have to build a dependency graph when you parse the first set of values. So when you do the first when you're building the view, I'm guessing that you have a routine on iOS that resolves all of the attributes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so when you're resolving them, you can see if there's a contract which has inputs which are currently undefined. Like, so for example, the first time you parse, you see that node, you can't resolve it. It's impossible to resolve.
Yes.
Okay, so you mark and you see that it's a user input. So you mark it as unresolved user input. And then you say, okay, we're going to need a second parse. So then you go, you build the view, you parse, and then you see, okay, we've got node now. So then you rebuild the attributes using the same method, and now you can actually get that function.
When does the engine decide that the first pass is complete?
The same as it normally would.
No, well, usually when you have a user entry, the user will have to hit the confirm button.
Correct. Yes, but
for example, if the script is if the page is very heavy and it takes 10 seconds to complete. So
That's
after
actually-
10 seconds,
Do you not have a call like on view rendered?
You can do it on key event, but I have a question to Boone. Actually,
but there is no
not
key event. But there is no key event here because the user has
No,
not
but there's
entered
a on view rendered though, and then as soon as you get the on view rendered from the view, then you know that the JavaScript will be there.
But so this is assuming that the user, the author writes it in such a way that it blocks the view rendering.
No, you don't need
For
to do that.
example, if I have a very heavy page, let's say we were just
Yes.
talking about
guys,
web
we
pages.
don't have much time. Can we simply
Yeah.
agree that the developer has to do something to update the attributes?
It would be better if there was another attribute instead of user input. It would be like JavaScript input. Then we'd know that we need a second pass.
There is a React update function. Can we let the Vue developer to call that function?
Actually, yeah, that's not a bad idea because then.
But
yeah.
my point is
that's
it's
really
very
hard.
easy to break this.
That's
Yeah,
really
my
hard.
point is it's very easy to break this.
How would it break?
For example, if the developer wrote a set timeout because he doesn't want to block the view from loading.
But the there's okay. So does your view have a method on view rendered or something like that?
Yes, but if he, well, we're running out of time. We can probably discuss this after this.
Yeah. Okay.
But guys, what Boone proposed is that something has to be done by the developer, which is what I'm proposing too.
Yes. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree.
So
There's
we just
basically
need to
another
figure out
flag.
the API that the developer has to call in order to update an attribute that user entered, so that the triggers a row of updates.
Oh, wait, no, it's not okay. So in this case, it's not something that the user enters. It's something that the JavaScript calculates. If the user enters it, there's no problem with that. We already handled that.
If there were a way to say that it wasn't user entry, but that it should be fired, that would be even better.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Let me step back.
That's what we're looking for.
Forget about user entry, okay? So
yes.
let JavaScript decide when the attribute tree should be propagated based on the one of the attributes that JavaScript happen to place there, local attribute.
It's not. This doesn't happen to place it. It's entirely procedural. Like this is something the developer wants to do.
Yeah, just like we do a React update function.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all right. Is that all right for Boone?
That would be the ultimate way of doing it. Yes. So basically, you would have you would declare that you need an attribute resolved in JavaScript, and then you would call that specifically.
But
so
I
it
don't
wouldn't need to render the whole view.
That's because
the style.
Yeah.
That's because you need to the other places which depends on the value the attributes that depends on the so the return value of the smart contract itself needs to be triggered somewhere. It needs to trigger some change somewhere. Ideally, a component is able to update itself because it learned that a local attribute has updated because a new call to a view function has been done.
Oof, that's pretty
that
nasty.
doesn't have anything to do with this double pass for attributes. Yes.
No, it simply makes
what you're saying, weiwu, sounds nice, but it sounds like it sounds
okay.
pretty horrible to be able to implement that.
In that case, shall we just come up with something? And James Brown, can you post this thing into the community group?
Yes, we'll have
and with whatever modification you want to make, so that we can follow up the discussion and figure out what's the best way to solve it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And is that okay for you to go on? Like, can you follow up with the post?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's all done. So thank you very much for today. And I think we are blending this meeting into the drinking party. Is Sunil still going to do the drinking party? I'm not sure if
I have to get going now because I need to eat my dinner, but I'll be back.
You know, I'll
okay.
start my other meeting. And as always, you know, always welcome. Yeah.
Okay. So let's cancel this, or do you want to put it another time?
Let's cancel this. I'll put up the other one.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Yeah.
See you guys.
Thank you very much.
Yes.